I lived in a small town, Buguruslan. Usually we went out and played. This time we wanted to play hide and seek. The yards have long been traveled. You can't hide there, so they wouldn't find you. In general, as soon as we played in their yard, decided to change the place of games. In 300 meters near our houses was a park, quite large, and on the outskirts of the park stood 2 emergency houses. The administration planned to demolish them, but as it always turns out, the money was naturally not, and it all postponed. When we got there, the time was already about 11. It was starting to get dusk. After half an hour of play, I decided to hide more seriously. I wanted to surprise the yard girl, that I kind of did not find me at all, until I do not come out. It was 50, 49, 48. So everybody went into hiding, and I found myself in the far side of a dilapidated house. There were kind of basements in this house, but not that basements, but windows at ground level, behind which was actually the basement of the house. There were bars, but one window didn't have them. Like all windows, there was a sort of windowsill where you could sit and duck down so that you wouldn't be seen without going down into the cellar. I went there and I ran up, and for a moment I froze, seeing the impenetrable darkness in the cellar window. But thinking again about the girl and what a hero I would be in her eyes, I climbed into the window, ducked down, looked at the street, and found myself with my back to the cellar. About 5 minutes go by. I hear like everybody's done, and I'm kind of the last one. And I think I'll wait a minute and then I can run. Then I'll proudly tell them where I was hiding. I was wearing sandals at the time, and somehow I suddenly felt my feet freezing. Almost at the same moment, I heard something behind me, and literally right next to me, in that dark basement. I remember at that moment thinking, how so? Next to me, and I did not hear, then immediately realized that I was so engrossed in what was happening outside that I could not notice anything. Then in my head, horror, panic, I start there to the saving exit, realizing that it's too late. At the same time, I distinguish a stinking odor, similar to that of the meat department, the smell of cut meat. I feel the freezing cold of my breath on my back and an immediate pain in my thigh. A moment and I look at my thigh, and there, someone's huge hand. Yes, a hand. No hair, but absolutely black, even blacker than night, like coal. 3 of its clawed fingers digging into my thigh. Then the second hand wraps around the back of my chest, and this something starts to drag me there, into the darkness. I see the window shrinking and the darkness thickening. I try to scream, but I can't. I only get a whisper, barely audible to myself. And then darkness. I woke up in the park next to my yard. Walked to the yard, then started to feel pain in my leg. Looked, 3 deep cuts, but the blood was not coming, caked. Walked some more and went into the yard and saw some friends. Some had already gone home as it was late. Naturally, they asked me where I was. They kind of yelled and called, but then decided that I was playing a prank and ran home. I lied that I was walking in the park and went home. At the entrance of my grandmother, Lida was sitting. She said that parents called home, and you are walking around, the time is already 1:30. So I was out for about half an hour and I don't remember it at all. Strange, but after this incident I quickly came to my senses, and I would have thought that I dreamed it, imagined it, if not for one thing. My father, as usual, invited his friend, who was the chief of police, a colonel. Usually, when Uncle Misha came, they always sat me down with him, made me recite poems and such nonsense. But suddenly they were locked in a room, talking quietly about something. I naturally decided to eavesdrop. Here is Uncle Misha's story, not exact, but the meaning is the same. Do you remember those 2 wrecks on the edge of the park? Yeah. They're going to be demolished. It's about time. Why the secrecy? Because, Remember, a couple went missing in the park a week and a half ago, and the homeless people who used to live there, they're all gone. There's this drunk from their rabble left, talking about the devil in those houses. You know, 6 people are missing. We have to solve it. So I sent a policeman and a couple of cops down there. When they came back, pale, lost, they brought pictures of the scene. I looked at them and I felt bad. I'd seen blood all over Afghanistan, but nothing like this. There was blood all over the floor, and on the walls with blood, all sorts of strange symbols drawn on the walls. They took samples. You can imagine, it's really blood. Naturally, I called the center immediately, faxed the photos. They came the next day, I came with them. I wanted to go. They like no need, not your question. Said, well done, it's our job. And our major was perky. When they left their things for safekeeping. He opened and searched. It turned out they were officers of the Federal Security Service. P.S. My wounds from that thing healed very quickly. There were only 3 thin, almost imperceptible strips. I've heard something about hypnosis, like you can remember everything.